Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Womanomics Africa Online Circles. It's a fabulous Friday. I've lost count here in South Africa of the lockdown days that we're on. I just know that last night was an amazing show by our president, as usual, giving us some reassurances and also giving us some direction in terms of where we're going. What a time to be alive. What a time to be an entrepreneur in these days. And being part of bigger ecosystems and still asking the questions, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? Welcome, everybody. To those who have not been with us before, Womanomics Online Circles are proudly hosted by Oya, Womanomics Africa, and they are supported by Solidaridad. Womanomics Africa exists to essentially chart economic highways with African women in order for them to participate more meaningfully in intra-Africa trade. These times have made it necessary for us to reimagine, reinvent certain ways of engaging, particularly in terms of how do we convene, how do we make information and insights accessible and available to African women, obviously during this session and beyond, and how do we make sure that we have got certain speakers that come and illuminate certain parts for us to be able to navigate this process. Very excited about today's speaker. Today's speaker is Dudu Msomi, and she is the CEO of Busara Leadership Partners, and her discussion today is about targeting your business, and it's really a practical working session to reimagine your business in this market and post COVID-19. So a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody who joins is going to be put on mute. And that's so that we can navigate this. Videos off and on mute, and you will be availed an opportunity to ask questions later. And Dudu will provide her presentation, after which you can write your Q&A in the Q&A section, or you can send a chat message and we will pick it up and we'll facilitate. We'd like to get as many voices in the room. It's not about us, it's about us as the ecosystem of entrepreneurs and partners supporting women in entrepreneurship, to be able to engage on conversations that matter, conversations that allow us to navigate this space. So, Dudu, without further ado, do share with us what your conversation will be about, and please do take it away. You're welcome.
Hello, I'm so honored that you found the time to share this presentation with me. I decided to name the topic Target Your Business. And the idea is that we focus on our businesses for a change, and to use this time to focus on our businesses as much as we focus in the business and on our clients, which is rightly so. But in order for us to ensure that we survive into the future, we need to take this opportune moment, which is tragic and scary, and to redirect our energies to ensuring that our businesses survive. So I called it Target Your Business. So the first slide is really just a summary of what our company does, Busara Leadership Partners. It is a business model premised on 4 main areas, which is advisory, facilitation, coaching and development, thought leadership, all rooted in research. What we do is to really facilitate the development and effectiveness of leaders to achieve their desired goals. But I will leave this to you to read in your own time. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to our website, Busara Leadership Partners. So how did I organize our conversation today? Because I really hope it's a conversation and not just a one-way presentation. So I decided to organize it starting with the context, just to give a context of why we are having this session, and why is the second part, which is why even bother? Why even have a topic called Target Your Business? Thirdly, what should we be doing? And I decided just to simplify it, and there are just few things that I would like us to focus on, because there are many other things we could do. But I think if you focus on these, then you're able to really focus on what can really make a difference. T is for target market, A is for access, R is for resources, G for G-spot, E for ethics, and T for transformation. And then we'll go through it and then see if any of this resonates with you. And then it will be great to have some discussion and just to share ideas at the end of it. So I'll make sure that I give us enough time for that. So the context, I think the timing has been perfect in the context of the lockdown, especially because the president has just given us the 5 levels, which will be guiding our journey as we tackle this COVID-19. We are presently on level 5, and hopefully from the 1st of May, we move to level 4, but the details will be shared with us at a later date. But I just thought I will add this slide just to show the context in which we are living. And the whole idea is to ensure that we not only survive as we go through these levels, but beyond. And that's very important, that there is life beyond COVID-19. The next slide is just out of interest, something I came across, which shows the different sectors and how they are responding during these times of crisis in terms of potential winners and losers. So, and it will be interesting because some of them struggle being losers and winners. I suppose it depends on what happens. For example, like education is both a loser and a winner. And I suppose if they're are very agile and they're able to move online, they'll be able to survive. But this is really for your information to look at where your business falls in terms of a sector and to see what benefit you can get from this. So it's really just from information. Okay, but the one area I really would like us to focus on is something that was inspired by Yuval Noah Harari, which formed the basis of the last seminar that I actually had in March around the 4IR. And it's from the book 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And it's very important that in the midst of what we're going through, let us not forget that we're also in a recession and that we're also transitioning into a 4IR environment. So if we are already hemorrhaging now, let us not just be paralyzed. Let us work towards ensuring that we look at whatever opportunities this time is giving us to reinvent ourselves. But in the context of the 4IR and some of the ideas that Harari shares, example, when he talks about the technological revolution might soon push billions of humans out of the job market. I mean, already the COVID-19 has been devastating for the job market. People have lost millions and millions of jobs, not just in South Africa, but globally. So on top of that, think in the context of 4IR, where it can also potentially create a new useless class, which is the professional level, the white-collar class that always seem to be immune to retrenchments. Now that's the market that's really being targeted if we don't evolve quickly enough. He reminds us that humans have 2 types of abilities, physical and cognitive, and the majority of us, especially in the knowledge space, are very much in the cognitive ability space. And that's also the area of AI in terms of artificial intelligence. So it's something that we should consider in the context of how do we stay competitive as we create these new advancements and technologies. But I actually don't think it's useful for me to go through every point. I've put it there for your information. It provides a context, and that we must not forget. As much as we're immersed in the COVID-19 world, let us not forget that 4IR is still the context that we have to plan for. The one that usually concerns me is about how do humans stay competitive, and how do we ensure that we are not going into another crisis and calling it a black swan in 5 years, because we have not planned and evolved and reskilled and unlearned in order to be able to live in a world that is AI driven. So that is for your consideration. But anyway, moving on. So why are we having this conversation? Yeah, why are we indeed? But anyway, I love this African proverb which says, when the music changes, so does the dance. And there is not a person in the world who is aware of COVID-19 that does not realize that this is a different type of music from what we are used to. So the answer of why depends really on your belief. The first belief that I want to propose is, could you be thinking that COVID-19 is just a little bump on the path and business will get back to usual after the lockdown? Or are you one who's thinking that, gosh, this lockdown has really exposed weaknesses in the business model, and I really need to see how I make money going forward, because at the moment I'm not able to make money? The third scenario is, are you the person that's thinking change is constant, and now is as good a time as any to assess whether my business is still going in the right direction, the most profitable direction, or do I have to relook at my products, my services? Are you that kind of person? So this topic will have relevance to you based on what you think about this context. So I will take it that you are one that is wanting to get to the other side and survive. So if I ask you, what is the condition, the one condition that you need to have in order to have a viable business, what would that answer be? And I'm hoping the answer you are thinking about is the answer I have. Anyway, so my proposed answer to you is that the one condition you need in order to have a viable business is a paying customer. And this time of lockdown has really shown us whether our businesses are essential, whether our products are essential, and whether we have paying customers. Because if no cash is coming into the business, there is no business. Which is why it's opportune that our first T is target market. Somebody is having money in their pocket, and hopefully you have a business that is able to get that money from their pocket into your bank account. So the question is, who are you selling to? Who are you servicing? Yeah, we have to relook at that. If you are really stressed at this point in time, can see already just in the past few weeks that without face-to-face interaction, you do not have a business, and it's a service business or even a product business, you have to really relook at yourself and look at the company. What are the pain points you are trying to solve? Are these pain points only in a context where you have face-to-face? Or are these pain points existing, but your business model is such that you are not structured to be able to supply during this time where people have these problems? So that's a question. Is the problem you are solving still existing, and will it continue to exist when we are now in level 1, according to the levels that the president has shared with us? Does the target market that you are targeting at present, does it have long-term growth and profitability potential? It reminds me of context. I was watching television, I think a few weeks ago, and they were interviewing some dry cleaners in restaurants around Seattle. And they were talking about the fact that now that a lot of the workers are working remotely, their businesses are dry. They literally, well, I'm trying not to make a pun in terms of the dry cleaners, but that people are not bringing in their laundry because they're working from home, So this business realized that the location was really the unique value proposition. Outside of the location, she had no business. So the same as the restaurants. So the guide that I'm giving in terms of you looking at your target market and asking those questions are those questions. But also the market segments also help us in terms of re-looking at our target market. So go through the list at your own leisure, and I have examples there. And just, if you don't get this part right, it's very difficult to have a business, because ultimately the people that you are servicing is your target market. So really give this time to yourself to fine-tune this. The next one is the A. So it's access. And access for me is about touch points. How do people get in touch with your business or service, and how do you get in touch with them? It's about reaching in whichever way, whether it's through sales, marketing, through partnerships, through networks, through events, through the internet, through social media, whichever way. Just really think about the different touch points of how people access and how you can. And maybe there are areas that you have neglected in the past, and a lot of us are in that boat at the moment, especially in the service industry, where we've always depended on face-to-face. And now there are so many opportunities being brought to the fore with regards to how we use technology, social media, in more fruitful ways that we have been using in the past. So give that one a thought. Focus on what helps you deliver outstanding customer experiences. This is how you must think about access. What are the things that help you deliver outstanding customer experiences? And this is an opportunity for you and I in our companies to start embarking on a digital transformation journey if we have not already. And this will help us get great insights and track trends about our customer base. Because, as we said, without paying customers, we have no business. So it's always good intelligence to have information about our customers. So as their interests change, So we able to, if that is what we wish to do, to evolve maybe some products or aspects of our business to suit that. But also, embarking on this journey of digital transformation will help us to develop, I think, a single view of the customer. I'm sure you get very irritated sometimes when you are using one bank and they will send you different types of information as though they're not aware that all your products are with them. So it's always nice to have a single view of the customer, so that you're able to, with every touch point, to add value, whether it's just sales arm or the marketing arm or just the research or support service. It's useful. Also, with digital transformation and technologies, you're able to harness what people are already using. When you think about, it's not just only for big companies. The scale of our businesses are all different. So in terms of analytical tools and applications, we may not all be needing big data, but whatever data we have can be useful. Mobile tools and applications, so like smartphones and tablets, but already we know that lots of our customers, majority of our customers, depending on your target market, already are using those. So how are you going to be able to harness these in order to make yourself more effective? Social media, now we're not just using it just to post our food and our hangouts and what we're doing for fun. We've really turned social media to be an effective and powerful business tool. So look at that and see how you can really work on your brand to stand out and to do things that count on social media. The most important thing I really encourage you is to have in place a customer recovery strategy, because in the moments of truth, whenever you're interfacing with clients, you will always have some negative experiences. So already preempt that and make sure that you have a customer recovery strategy. Make sure that there's training and communication and the empowerment of your touchpoint staff. And sometimes we only think of touchpoint staff as front of house people or salespeople. You find that even finance, the debtors, collectors, those people, whoever interfaces with clients, they have the potential of damaging your brand. So ensure that everybody is trained in terms of how do they handle when things go wrong. The other most important thing, whether we are small or large, is to think about our customer data and how to protect it. So our security is very important, and also protecting the privacy, because when those go badly wrong, they impact the brand and the reputation of your company. So ensure that you protect that. So when we go on to R, we are talking about resources. The most important thing around here is to start mapping your value chain. I think we sometimes take it for granted that we understand how our business works. Start from the inputs right to the end in terms of how you create value. So your resources bring to the fore the inputs that go into your business. What do you have? Whether it's financial, your organizational culture, your knowledge, you'll be surprised when you start breaking those down to find where your value really is. It could be a reputation. If somebody steals something that you do, and yet doesn't have the reputation you have, they may not be able to deploy it the way you would. So think about what are those inputs that go into your products and services. What do you have? That thinking will also bring it to your capabilities, the processes and the people in your business. What are the processes? How can you refine your processes? And I think with the lockdown, this part of our businesses, our capabilities, have really been brought to the fore. What can you do with them? So give that a lot of thought. And in the final analysis, when you've done that, you'll come to realize and appreciate your core competencies. What is the value that you're really bringing to bear when you're interfacing with your clients, when you're producing your product, and whether it's B2B or B2C, what is the value you're bringing to the market? What are you really doing well? And that information you can also glean from looking at your financials, work out your financial ratios, and see what the numbers are telling you. Look at your employee, customer, and stakeholder feedback. If you haven't been doing that, I think it's an opportune time to do it. It can be just 10 question survey, asking your customers what they think of you, your different stakeholders. It's always good to map your stakeholders, because sometimes we're not really doing a comprehensive job when we're doing that. And then you'll find amazing insights in terms of how people view your business, so that you're able to craft another way forward that's going to make you survive into the future. So this is the area of resources. This is going to allow you to answer, what are we good at? What are our strengths that we can use and exploit the shifting opportunities that, because for sure COVID-19 has brought other opportunities to the fore that we may not have totally appreciated in the past. Doing this exercise is also going to help you to reduce your threats, to create a competitive and a comparative advantage. Ask, what are the most important assets to make the business model work? Yeah, because the important thing is to bring healthy cash flows for the business. So what are those most important assets? What are the biggest costs? Because you have to ask yourself that question. Even during times of plenty, it's always good to ensure that you can trim costs where possible. But more than ever now, ask yourself, what are the biggest costs? And it's not a matter of cutting whatever the biggest cost, because that could be where your core competency lies. So that's not but ask so that you know, what are the most expensive resources? You know, if you're a knowledge company, it will possibly be your people. But it's an important question to ask. What are the key activities that are most important? Because from asking yourself that, you will know whether you are gaining value from those key activities or they're just superfluous to your business. What are the fixed costs is always important, and variable costs. At the moment, a lot of us are possibly having leases that we're thinking, gosh, I shouldn't have gone into this lease agreement, because now you're working from home and you're now appreciating that you could actually run a business from home and connect with your staff remotely. So look at your fixed costs, look at your variable costs, because whatever you're able to change, do so now. Renegotiate whatever leases, whatever contracts you're able to negotiate. But also going through this process is going to help you answer what is non-negotiable for the business to outsource, because you cannot outsource what is core. People sometimes think you can outsource problem solving and thinking to consulting firms. As much as I'm a strategic advisor and a consulting firm, we help and facilitate. We do not own your intellectual property, your intellectual capital. So that's still with you. So problem solving still should reside in your business. But also issues like supply chain. I think this COVID-19 with the lockdown globally has really shown how vulnerable our supply chains are. So ask yourself, in the context of your business, because it's not true for every business, in the context of your business, what can you never outsource, so that as you're relooking at your business, you ensure that you protect that. Also, look at your partners. Look at, where can I work with my partners? Where can I be more strategic? And look at your suppliers as well. Where can I leverage these relationships? Think of competition. Now you can bring resources together where things are just commodities, where you're not really gaining anything, no competitive edge. So even when you can work with your competitors, I look at ourselves in consulting, that a number of us have gotten into partnerships where we bring business to each other and protect each other's brands. But because sales teams are not a huge part of our business, we act as each other's sales teams. And also because we give different services, even though we're consulting firms or strategic advising, we're able to find areas where we can work together. So in your environment as well, look at those areas and see where you can work together. The next is the G-spot. The G-spot talks about your unique value proposition, and this is key. When you've done everything around your target market, your access, your resources, hopefully it's become very clear to you now, what is your unique value proposition? And that is where what you do very well, what your customers want from you, and what your competitors don't do well, but you do well. Yeah. In my life, I don't focus too much on competitors, because our competition now doesn't come from the area that we expect. Hotels did not think of an Airbnb. Meter taxi didn't even think Uber, So it's not always advisable to be obsessed with competition, because ultimately you have to be very clear about the pain points you're trying to solve for and make sure you're good at that, because competition can come from anywhere. It is just always okay to know what people in your sector or in your industry are doing, but not be too much obsessed with that. And I use this diagram, which I hope you'll find useful, which I found from Duffy Agency, and I hope you'll find it useful. So unique value proposition is key. Next is about ethics. This is always a tricky one, especially during this time. We can't take it for granted, the trauma that many of us are going through. Warren Buffett, he is a billionaire, so we may say, gosh, you're the one to talk. But it's worthwhile thinking about when he says it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. And I borrowed this diagram, which I've created into ethical misconduct triangle. It is inspired by the fraud triangle, which has motivation, opportunity, and rationalization. And obviously, when you look at this diagram, motivation, what is the motivation for us to be unethical? It is to make money. So whether we pay a bribe or you do something that under normal circumstances you wouldn't do, the motivation. It's not always to keep us going, because sometimes in the time of plenty it's out of greed, but during this time be very much more aware, because many of us and many of our companies are going through cash strain. So this is real in terms of keeping our businesses going, feeding families. It is not a small feat. So motivation is one of the key things. The second thing to consider is opportunity. So especially during this time, you will find that there are creative ways that we use as human beings to access things. And so be aware of that. And then the third one of this triangle is the rationalization. So what am I proposing? I'm proposing that you look at these areas, look at yourself and look at your staff, especially yourself. When you start bending the rules, like little rules, like because of the circumstances, you start justifying, you know that you're already on a slippery slope. The more as a business you feel like you're in a pressure cooker, the more vulnerable you are. Watch your words, watch your actions. When you start justifying things, then you know you're on a slippery slope. How do I propose you mitigate that? Work on your policies. If you don't have them, establish policies around ethical conduct. I remember when I started my career in advertising, I started at Saatchi & Saatchi, and our leaders at that time literally had a meeting and informed us that they are aware that there's the vulnerability that exists in the industry to be unethical and to accept conditions and bribes in order to get business. And the stand was taken by the agency that no matter how difficult it gets, we will never get into that situation. And there are a number of business opportunities that we lost because they would not budge. But it was because they established the policies and we were shared the procedures. So when I was confronted with the situation, I knew exactly what to do. I approached the chair and I said, this is what has happened. So this is important. Ensure clarity of what are the negative ethics. What not to do is just as important as advising people on what to do. So share with them positive ethics as well in terms of guidelines of what we should do. These things define your brand. This is about your character. Your ethics talk to what is important in establishing a reputation as an organization. Ensure that, especially when we get back to our brick and mortar buildings, but also even as we're working from home, ensure that your staff continue to take leave. Because usually people that don't take leave are usually hiding and ensuring that nobody else takes over their responsibilities. And sometimes you'll find that they are being unethical. So make sure that everybody takes leave. Just because we're working from home for a while doesn't mean that people shouldn't take leave if you're still in the usual working mode. Understand month to month your financial data. It's more important now than ever that you ensure that you understand what your revenue, your expenses, and your working capital look like. Review your budgets more regularly. Be aware of any red flags in yourself and in your team. If you are feeling strain in terms of, some of us have difficulties in adapting our lifestyles, know that you will get to a point where you start doing stuff just because you want to maintain your lifestyle. So be aware of your own red flags. Have plan B in place in case the business doesn't turn around until 21, 22. And there is a high probability that a lot of us are going to be going through a hard time for a long time. The areas to watch is when your cash is really, your cash flow is really struggling. I remember when we were studying our MBA and we used to talk about cash is queen. I know they should say king, but some of us should say cash is queen. Until you start running your own business, gosh, you really don't appreciate that saying. It is really queen, I tell you. So start adjusting your lifestyle. Really, pride goes before a fall. You can do with a smaller car if need be. You can do with less champagne. I mean, there are people who are barely able just to keep food on the table. So think about that. Address the financial pressures up front as they come. Make sure that they address, reduce costs as much as possible, but not to a point where you're not able to deliver your business. It's very important that your services and products are not compromised. Ensure that you strengthen internal controls. Ensure that there's segregation of duties. That's very important, especially when you are more than one person in a business, because you can be very tempted to do everything, and then things start happening, things get siphoned off here and there. So that's very important. Improve access control to financials and other high-risk areas. Train your staff as far as possible, including ethical training. And that really doesn't take a long time. You can have it as part of your practice once a month when you're even having those remote meetings, if you're working remotely. And if you're still in the brick and mortar, once a month, just in your agenda of staff meetings, have 10 minutes when we talk about ethics and be upfront about it. The one thing that is most important for all of us, because I've been speaking to a number of small business owners, and a lot of us have not been keeping the 6 to 9 month operations budget, because even businesses are almost like individuals are living hand to mouth. So let's start this practice again of saving, just, even if it's a little a month, so that you start building up that buffer. It's very important. Work towards 6 to 9 months operations budget, so that the next time we have a crisis, it may not be a coronavirus. It could be a biological warfare. It could be anything. Just think outside the box and think, if I'm ever in such a situation again, how will I keep living? Do your PASTEL. PASTEL stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So it's a tool that we use for external analyses. And it's very important because most of us are so busy working and just delivering for clients and for businesses that we forget to do the environmental scanning and reading. Now we're all sending this video by the former President Obama talking about potential coronavirus. The thing is, we all should be scanning the environment and reading up and just keeping up to date. And the PASTEL is just a way of categorizing the type of information you should think about. SWOT analysis is very important for your business, because this is what helps you assess your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the part of what we're doing in terms of target your business is helping us towards working on our SWOT analysis. So it helps us to assess both the internal and external pressures that are working on your financial viability and your bottom line. So that is what I will propose that you look at when you look at ethics. The last one is transformation. And transformation is an invitation, really, that with this crisis, not just to change, but to look at radically changing your business model if it's possible. COVID-19 is giving all of us a burning platform to transform our businesses. There are areas now that are glaring at us, and we're thinking, gosh, it's not about tweaking anymore. Some of us will possibly have different businesses than the ones that we had before COVID-19. Factor in the changes and opportunities also to be brought about by 4IR. So the issues around digital transformation, look at how you can incorporate that into your business model. This is an opportunity to change your strategy without necessarily changing your vision. I'm sure where you want to get to is still very much aspirational. It's something you want to reach, but how you get there may need to evolve, and this is an opportunity to do that. Give yourself and your business permission to transform, because sometimes we get so caught up and we are so in love with our businesses, and being an entrepreneur and starting a business is no small feat. It comes from passion, but sometimes you need to let go and open up a bit in order for it to survive, to pivot the direction of your business, to develop new products, and to repackage existing ones to suit different segments. That's an opportunity. So opportunities that are being brought to the fore now is to look at whether you need a brick and mortar business or you can actually operate virtually. Some of us have been operating virtually for a long time. I remember for 2 years I decided to have a full-time office, and I was hardly ever there because my work is really to work and service clients, so I'm mainly with clients. And I had thought I will be growing my coaching business, but I end up going to my coachees for coaching. So for 2 years I was literally wasting money. So look at your business and be very ruthless. Is this a business that can run virtually? Can you have a more flexible workforce? Maybe even stagger hours in terms of how people work. And I mean, now you've been seeing with social distancing that actually less people are in buildings and things still continue. So that's an opportunity. Telecommuting may become a norm. So some of us never thought this will be normal. So another opportunity to transform. One thing that people have been talking about is, gosh, thank goodness, these meetings about meetings. Oh, so you'll be surprised how much time we've been wasting all these years in meetings. And now that we're working remotely and that we're using technology more, you get to be succinct and you set up a meeting only to achieve the most important thing and not to posture around. So this is an opportunity to never go back to what has not been working. It's also an opportunity to look at your processes, maybe have less processes, be more focused, and ensure that people have greater self-accountability so that they are not micromanaged. When you're working from home, there's nobody standing over your shoulder, so you have to do the work yourself. So if you do transform your business, remember, you can always pilot certain changes, just like you don't have to be radical. Just choose 2 issues. Just 2 critical issues that can make a difference, and focus and concentrate actions and resources on them, and then make sure that you communicate the changes, enroll advocates, get feedback, and then be passionate about spreading the new story of this new business that you are, whatever the change is, and get everybody excited around that. I hope you have found this useful. In closing, what is the difference between an obstacle and an opportunity? I do support this quote, which says it's our attitude towards it. Every opportunity has a difficulty, and every difficulty has an opportunity. I hope you see it the same way. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to our engagement.
Thank you so much, Dudu. That was quite illuminating. I really got caught on right from the first quote when you said, when the music changes, so does the dance, because I think this particular period has had us all thinking about how to navigate the space. What's the dance that we need to start adopting to? How do we move through the changes that are coming through without knowing what the changes are? I'd like to open it up to the floor. Thank you very much for also inviting the floor to ask any questions. We apologize for sound, and we are thinking through a workaround in the recorded video and content that you will get through. I'm just looking at the Q&A. So what we're asking for people to do is, if you've got questions, please raise your hand so we can cue you in to speak, or if you've got a point to make, feel free to leave it in this particular section here in the chat section, and we can follow up on that. I think for me, one of the questions that I have, and I think another thing that caught on for me is asking about the conditions that you need to survive and to be relevant. And you really did spark interest for me by saying is by having a paying customer, because that's a real pain point for a number of entrepreneurs right now, where spending has been halted by quite a few, and everybody's looking at what I call the maintenance crew scenario, where everybody's waiting to see how this is going to pan out. So given that, your first, if you go to your first slide, the target, what is it that you should be doing immediately? So this, it's great to look at things holistically. Immediately now, today, if your challenge is not having a paying customer, and you're basically in that quagmire of not knowing what the future holds, how do you start to apply target when even your basic reason for survival is in limbo?
The one thing that has become very fashionable, the portfolio. This also portfolio. So in a business context, I also look at it as diversifying. So for me, start with your financials. Financials never lie. First, look at your financials. Look at where most of your revenue has been coming from thus far. And then see if COVID-19 is the real and only reason that those clients are no longer doing business or able to do business. For example, a lot of my work is face-to-face. I have, within a week, sent out communication to clients and offered my services for remote workers, helping them to acclimatize to the environment, training virtually. So every context is different. So look at your business and say, this has been my offering services in a different way. And if it isn't, then you have to look at diversifying, getting into new markets. As I was saying, about the conversation we're having with some of my friends is, one of them is in impact investing, and the clients were different. But now it's like, well, actually, why can't I work with the nonprofits themselves and help them? Because as they professionalize themselves and raise funding, they need to be more professional, so my services can be redirected. So you just have to be really ruthless with yourself, looking at your revenue stream and seeing whether those customers can be moved to offer to take on a different service from you, or then you look at different clients. But also work with your suppliers, work with your partners, work with your networks, and find creative ways. It has been amazing how the alcohol companies suddenly have been producing sanitizers, how dress designers have now been doing masks. So that's how quickly we have to adapt and see where we can find a new revenue stream.
Thank you. It does appear that there's not just a need for agility, but also a need for very honest conversations, which cannot be a simple thing to navigate, because you're looking at your business without any filters right now, with nowhere to hide. And it's a very brutal conversation one needs to have. I'm going to allow for Baxolile and for Mpho in that order to please frame their questions. Baxolile.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dudu. That was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Mine is just a comment when you spoke about the G-spot and what makes me unique in my business. Really on the point of our competitors are not who we think they are. because I'm also doing training in the oil and gas sector, and I use slides just like what you've done now. And I found that someone just copied it as it is, you know.
Wow.
But you're saying what differentiates me from that person, and I'm saying with my 20 years experience, surely that person will not be at the same level at the time of presenting the information to the people, whoever was going to attend his training. You know, so I'm just taking away that point to say, I just need to follow my passion, focus on what I do best and know best, and not really be crippled by what this person has done. Thank you very much.
And that's very critical. I'm very happy that you picked that up. So remember when we were going through the resources, we must not undermine the knowledge, the intellectual, the human capital, because the differentiator in most times is the how we do it. It's not the what. So a person can steal your product, but how they deliver it and the touch points that you have are slightly different. So this is why I don't spend too much time on competitors. It's nice to know that they are there, but focus on what makes you different. And most times it is in the knowledge, it's in the intellectual, it's in your culture, it's in your human capital, and now as well in your technology. I'm hearing also that the reputational part is very important as a differentiator in your business, Makolile. So I'm glad you got that. Thank you so much for that feedback.
Thank you, Dudu, for your lovely presentation. At least you've cleared some of the points to some of us. My question is, I don't know if it's a question of, or if you can direct me on this. I'm in a PR and marketing space. I've just recently signed up a lease on the 1st of March before this COVID started. And then my business, I was planning to start training interns about website designing. And I've already signed up a lease for a year. And now the ESD program that I'm currently with, that I've signed up with, they want me to have an office in order for me to operate. But now, since this situation, I'm confused. What next? What should I do? Do I still need the office? Because I can see that this COVID has really affected my business. And you are right when you're saying that we need paying clients, but then April, I haven't been able to get any orders from any clients. So I'm in a situation like, I don't know if I need an office or what. If you can just give me a little bit of a direction, what should I do? I want to cut costs because I can see like I will be in trouble. So if you can just, thanks.
Are you able to negotiate with the landlord in terms of, especially in this context? Because I know the pressures of some of these programs. I think, unfortunately, they really do not understand the life of an entrepreneur. I must say, I was in a situation where I was going to be growing my coaching business. So I decided to have office space. And for 2 years, I think I went there like 6 times. And 1 or 2 clients that were trying to get me to do proposals wanted to see that I have physical space. And it's really ridiculous in this space and time. We really have to force their way of thinking. So first of all, negotiate with your landlord, because the context is such that it is beyond your control, and they have to understand that because you don't have income. And it's a reputational risk to them, because I must say I did not play too nice when I also tried to stop my contract. They tried their tricks, and I kind of said, well, you know what, you more at risk reputation, because I will tweet this out. I will, I will do many things, and they allowed me to get off the lease. But you don't have to go through those tactics. Just have a discussion, and they should be understanding, because this was beyond your control. And then you have to talk to this ESD. Because honestly, they are putting a lot of pressure unnecessarily. You can still have a corporate office. So, for example, my office spaces and spaces, which was in the past called the business center. So you have Regis, you have a lot of flexi. So you still have they still answer your calls. You still have an office when you want it, but you only pay for the use. You don't pay it when you're not using it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, yeah. I've tried that option before I actually took up this lease. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the better one, because you still have a business address. You still have your phones being answered, and when you book an office space, it's available. So your ESD won't mind that, because it still shows that you have office space. But it's just that you are not tied to like 10,000 a month versus like 1,000. You know.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. No, thanks.
Just negotiate for yourself. And just, what is most important is we all need to understand our own businesses and our own pressures, and don't do what other people are doing. Or if some of these programs are forcing us into spaces that we shouldn't be, we really should ask them to change and really work at it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It sounds like the entrepreneur also has to be the activist at this point in time, and it's not time sitting down. It's time to be a bit more vociferous about what your, not just your rights, but the expectations, to level the playing field, and for us to have equal access to opportunities without being on the back foot. I think there's a definite opportunity to shift power. And for the players to have, and I think there's great talk from government right now about it's a time for us to reframe our economy and how it works. We've had a lot of people excluded from participating, and with this kind of leveling of the playing field, perhaps this is the time for us to start exerting a pressure in terms of how some of these spaces should work. There is a question or a state from Matshepo, who I'm going to cue in. We don't like reading your statements out because we want to hear your voice in the room. So Matshepo, you're being unmuted to share your question for Dudu.
Thank you, Dudu, for the lovely presentation. I mean, so two things quickly. One is, I actually thought, there was a time during the lockdown when for some of us, the music actually stopped. So the music changed. For some of us, the music actually stopped because all the doors were closed. So all our business opportunities closed down. All the things that we had planned to do with clients was stopped. So that was the number one. But I think the second thing that has been happening for me during the lockdown is I've then had a lot of people reach out to me, but it's people that I've worked with them previously for free. Who are quickly then just saying, we need to do a strategy on this, we need to do a planning session on this, we need to do a project, whatever, on this. And then I come in and I assist. And I've been assisting for a couple of weeks. And I'm realizing that these people can actually pay, but they're not paying. And I'm also not asking clearly. So I've started having those asking conversations. But I was just asking, I'd like to know how to have that asking conversation without losing the business, without people thinking, oh, now you want to get paid now. Thank you for the advice. Goodbye.
But so you don't have the business. You know that. Because if they're not paying you, then you don't have the business. I had the most ruthless CFO because I literally wanted somebody to discipline me because the bleeding hearts get taken for a ride. So first of all, I was struggling with pricing because you're competing with big companies. So you're trying to assert your space. So I was struggling with pricing and I was struggling with saying no to non-paying because, the coffees and the advice that never gets paid for.
Yes.
And the lesson I was taught is if you don't value yourself, why should other people value you? And I had to get to a point where I don't lose the business that I never had. I lose the business that I never had. So I got to be so strict, and I still am strict, because I was getting burned. It's an abuse. I always say the big four advisory firms you will never call the partner and just want to give a talk, because when you leave there, they will send you the invoice. So if we don't value ourselves, nobody will value us. And let's not come from fear. A lot of us are coming from fear, because we're saying that if I don't do this, then I won't get. You already don't have it. And the fact that they allow you and they want you to do these things for free shows how much they don't value you. And you just have to be disciplined about it, because it has to be so consistent. I literally walk away. If you can't pay me, there are things that you decide. You have to be ruthless. What do you do pro bono? So there will be things that you still want to give, but don't have an expectation that you will convert them to be paying clients. It's what you give. And then there are opportunities where you know that they pay other service providers. Do not allow yourself to be taken for a ride.
That's such sage advice, particularly in this day and age where particularly women find themselves in a space where their ability to negotiate for what is due to them has been questioned. And it allows and has resulted in women being on the back foot, earning less and having access to less, in the spirit of, let me do a favor. Hi guys, it's not the time for a favor. I think we're all out there trying to make sure that there is not just value in what we do, but we receive value as well. At Womanomics Africa, we're all about, let's make sure that the dollar ends up in the hands of women in equitable ways. There's a final question or statement that's come in from Samantha, who does not have a mic. And her question to you, Dudu, is she's looking at adding a service to her recruitment company to help others get jobs by having a virtual secretary division within her business. Do you think there is a need for it?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Wow. I've been using virtual assistants, and I know a number of my friends, that's what they do. There is a need for it. The caliber is what we're all struggling with, because there are two extremes. There is a huge need. Your competitive advantage has to come from the quality. We cannot, because the thing is that we're paying per hour. So it's around ethics and it's about quality, because you don't want somebody who is spending 4 or 5 hours or even an hour in your business and yet you can't see the output. There is a huge need. And this is when you start re-looking at your target market. The small businesses are the ones that are needing that type of support. So you need to start creating a database and creating networks into those clients, because they need an hour or 2 hours a day. And if you really have good people, you can make good income from it. And the thing about virtual assistants is that it's a global service. I have friends who have had their PAs based in Canada, not even India, based in Canada. The virtual world has been my world, and I really appreciate it. It saves a lot of costs. So pursue that idea, Samantha. You got a winner there. Quality and ethics, that's your guide.
Disruption is an opportunity for us to look at things differently, see things differently, and to take advantage of the gaps that are opening up. Thank you so much, Dudu, for giving us this insightful conversation and for us engaging with us on it. Samantha has asked to contact you, Dudu, to get more clarity on this, and we'll just get to see information we share. We would like to thank Solidaridad for facilitating and making sure that this session happens. They're one of the sponsors behind the sessions. Dudu, obviously, for sharing this session. And I think that as Womanomics Africa, we are excited by the pronouncements that have been made that the economy has to be more inclusive. We're excited by the fact that our borders are not closed and there's still opportunities for us to do cross-border trade. We're excited that right now this disruption is forcing economies to to look at different ways of doing things, and there's a conscious effort to put women at the heart of it. So I think also, to tie up what Dudu was saying, there's clearly in this new world of work, which was typically looking at the workspace, entrepreneurs have an opportunity to also leverage one of the key factors that the new world of work was saying would be required, which is the role of collaboration. And I think that as we're putting these platforms together, we're engaging in conversations, but we're also identifying potential opportunities for collaboration, potential opportunities for scaling up. Thank you to all of you. It's now 10. If you would like to continue the conversation with us, do send us an email and on events@womanomics.net. My apologies, events@womanomics.net. To all of you who've participated, and to Dudu, and to Solidaridad, thank you very much. We look forward to engaging you next time.